Hey everyone, this is Philip Anthony, and we're going to talk about how to exponentially increase the amount of families that show up to your workshops. Now, I just did a coaching call with one of my college planning coaching members, and a very interesting question came up. She asked me, Philip, how do I increase the amount of people that show up to my workshops? And her question was really focused on the topic of increasing her response rate from her direct mail. And so there was obviously 100 things that we could have talked about when it came to how to increase the response rates for her direct mail so she can get more families. But before we talked about that, I asked her a key question, and this question had led me to really wanting to create this video for all of you out there who are perhaps looking to get a better response out of your marketing. And I said, how many families showed up from her existing marketing efforts? And she said every month she got about 25 families to show up. And I asked another question. I said, well, how many do you want? And she said, let's just say twice as much. So we said, okay, 50 families. So I said, here are a couple ideas of what you can do. Is instead of focusing on just getting more response out of your direct mail, let's focus on how to get people who have already raised their hand, said that they're interested in your services, or interested in your workshop at least. Let's figure out how to get those enthusiastic families to self-generate additional leads for you. And there's really 3 opportunities to do this in your marketing efforts. The first one is right before your workshop. The second one is during your workshop, and then the third one is right after your workshop. So let's go ahead and talk about each one for a second here and what you can do. So the first one is before your workshop. And the idea I have for you guys is when you're promoting your workshops, when a family calls in, and there's 2 ways you can do this. If you pick up the phone when they call in for to attend a workshop, you can instantly RSVP them and then instantly ask them to bring additional friends. And the key here is to give them an incentive. So you can say, thank you so much for RSVPing for my local workshop at etc, etc, etc. If you're interested in receiving a $100 gift card, we'd be more than happy to give you one, provided you do one of 3 things. Number 1 is you go on your Facebook and you post the time, date, location of our workshop, and that you let all your friends and family know that you're going so that we can get some social media marketing happening. Number 2 is that you bring at least 3 families with you, friends or family. And then number 3 is you email your high school counselor and you let your high school counselor know that you're going to be attending a workshop and that they should invite any parents that they think would benefit as well. And you might be asking, Philip, I don't want to spend $100 on my on some kind of incentive to do that. And my answer to you is that's absolutely insane. If you're not willing to spend $100 to do one of those 3 things, then you're missing out on such a huge revenue opportunity, and you need to stop asking yourself the question of how much do things cost and rather how much do they make. Because when you know your numbers, and if you watch some of my other video series, I've talked about this, knowing your numbers, if it costs you, for instance, $275 to get a butt in a seat at a seminar, then you can literally offer $275 incentive to do any one of those things, and as long as you get one person to show up, then your results are equivalent to what you're already doing. So you got to know your numbers, right? So that's the first thing that you can do to get more people to show up without even increasing your direct mail. It's offering them some sort of incentive to go on social media, to promote to a high school counselor, as well as to invite their friends and family. Now, my second advice is during your actual workshop. Now, when you do your workshop, there's so many things that you can do to become a highly effective marketer. And I'm just going to give you an example of one of these. Is that when you do your workshop and you have that moment where you provide one of your best pieces of advice, and you know what that advice is. Maybe it's a particular strategy to reduce your EFC, or it's a strategy to qualify for merit money, or perhaps it's some sort of tactical advice on an essay or recommendation letter in order to help the student get accepted into the school. But when you provide one of your best pieces of information, then here's what you can do, and I've done this in the past, and it's worked for me, is when you're at your seminar, you tell everyone, you say, Show of hands, how many of you guys thought that this was something that piece of advice really helped you? How many of you guys can use that information? And when they all raise their hand, then you can say, great. Can everyone do me a favor? If you thought that was good, can everyone please pull out your cell phones? And just wait for them to do it. And you got to make sure you come off in an authoritative way. Can everyone please pull out your cell phones? They'll pull out their cell phones, right? And then you can say, how many of you go to XYZ local high school? And then, and usually there's maybe 2 or 3 high schools in that local area where you're doing your workshop. You can say, and then click your slide, and then you can put behind your slide, here is the name, here is the email address of the counselors from all the high schools in this area. Find the high school counselor that your kid goes to for the school they go to, and could you email them that you just learned something right now that was very fantastic and that you recommend for me to come speak at your high school on this topic right now? Can everyone please do that for just 2 minutes? And for everyone who does it, I will give you a free copy of XYZ. And in my case, I give out a free copy of my book, College Planning System for Success. For you, if you don't have a book, it could simply be a report on schools that give out money, or something that has a high perceived value by the prospects. Now, if you're concerned that you won't be able to convince families to do that, then you gotta increase the quality of your workshop. Come up with some kind of content, something that wows them. And right when their emotional buying temperature is highest, again, turn the slide, have all the counselors, contact information, have them pull out their smartphones, and instantly in that moment have them all email your counselor. What's great is how good does it look for you to have the counselor get 5, 10, 15, 20 emails all at the same time from parents endorsing you and leveraging the power of social proof in order to put you in front of more prospects. So again, you always want to be marketing and thinking how you can multiply an opportunity and spiderweb it and make it more effective and more profitable for you. And of course, my last piece of advice here is after the workshop. Now, right after you do the workshop, that again is one of the most valuable opportunities for you to market. And I'll give you an example of what I'll do. Is at the end of my workshops, I will always email every single family that attended, and I'll say, could you please do me a favor? If you can please fill out the following 5-minute survey, I will give you XYZ. And my gifts change, and I've tested different gifts. And if you're curious to know what gift works for me, is I'll email my families a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that I used where I delivered all my information. And they'll be like, yes, I absolutely want the PowerPoint presentation. It was great content. And what will happen is then they'll fill out the survey. And then inside the survey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use questions that start to pre-motivate them to wanting to hire me. And I don't have time to get into my survey questions and the psychology behind the right kinds of questions to ask. But I will tell you is at the end of my survey, I have a very special section that says 10 ways that you can help me spread the word. And in those 10 different ways, I'll start to outline different strategies of things that they can do to help me promote my workshops and my future workshops. So I'll say, for instance, number 1 is contact your HR department at your corporation and promote and see if they'll be interested in promoting the workshop for me to come and do perhaps a lunch and learn at their place of work. I'll say number 2 is contact a local association that you're part of, such as a chamber of commerce or a parent group, and see if they want me to come and do a workshop. And I'll go through this whole list, and I'll have 10 ways where you can help me promote. So in other words, instead of just telling them to promote my workshop, I'm going to teach them how to market for me, and I'm going to give very specific advice. And of course, I'll incentivize it by saying, if you do all these things, I'll give you XYZ gifts, right? And so everything has an incentive structure by it. But if you can, number 1 is if you can multiply the amount of families that self-market for you before your workshop, if you can come up with creative ways during your workshop to get additional lead generation to take place, and then at the end of your workshop, if you have a survey system or something in place to help perpetuate and increase the amount of your prospects, then I can assure you, you will dramatically increase the amount of families that show up to your workshops without even worrying about increasing the response of your direct mail. And of course, if you increase your direct mail, and in addition to do all the things that we just talked about, you're going to be one step closer to achieving 7-figure status as a college planner. Oh, and one last thing is, as you're doing all these things, if you really want to make sure that you're being as profitable as possible, then you want to automate these functions. You want these things to happen regardless of whether or not you are awake or if you're asleep. You want these surveys to be automatically emailed out. You want Facebook promotion tactics to be automatically sent out to your prospects, leveraging some sort of information system or CRM technology. So again, I hope this training was helpful for you. Go out there, implement this, let's get it done, and definitely email me, let me know your results, and I look forward to helping you to achieve more wealth as a college planner.